Hello, welcome back to the third episode of Nothing Left Unsaid. I'm your host, Abigail, and I'm very excited to be back with you all today. So, how is everyone doing this week? I can say for myself, I am a little unwell. Things are going very poorly, as I'm sure everyone knows. But I did have a couple of nice weekends. Went to see some live music, went to a festival, did some cooking at home, made some sushi and some fresh pasta, which was really enjoyable to just kind of enjoy that hobby before we all have to start eating less thanks to Trump's tariffs. Really loving waking up every day and checking my phone, like, are the tariffs on? Are they off? Like, what's going on with that? Are they increasing? Are they decreasing? Are other countries retaliating? What we do know, though, is that Trump's erratic behavior and policies are skyrocketing the costs that we are paying every day to live and to eat. And the instability is bringing the economy to a halt. One thing that hasn't changed, though, is that Trump and Elon Musk are continuing to conspire to take away your health care, your kids' school lunches, and Social Security for your grandparents. Trump also just announced plans to shutter the Department of Education, which provides federal education funding that pays teachers' salaries, buys books, reduces class sizes, and helps make sure that our schools are actually serving all of our children, preventing discrimination and making sure that students with disabilities have the resources that they need. Of course, this is all part of his plan to defund and destroy public education so that we can get the wealthy private school industry more money in their pockets and to make discrimination legal again, essentially. Here in Arizona, conservative lawmakers have been working towards this for years. The universal voucher grift is a perfect example of that. This, of course, is happening as Trump and Musk are continuing to destroy other important programs that we rely on, like Social Security and Medicaid. To distract from all of this, Trump decided to release the JFK files, which is really hilarious if you want Americans to learn more about the U.S.'s extensive history destabilizing other countries and pushing capitalism through violence. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is going on Fox News to complain about how, while he's robbing families, literally, that he is somehow the victim. Tesla dealerships are getting protested in, their stocks are down, their sales are down, people are getting rid of their vehicles because nobody wants to drive a Nazi truck. And as a result, Trump decided to host a car show for Tesla on the White House lawn. So basically, our government is one big infomercial for the richest man on the planet. What the fuck? So yeah, if anyone needs a quick dopamine hit throughout the day, just get online and check Tesla's ever declining stocks. And real quick, I just have to throw some shade at bro podcaster Gavin Newsom, whose whole shtick seems to be having right-wing talking heads who already have platforms on, like Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon. He says he's trying to, get both sides or whatever, but really he's just getting dog walked by them and not offering any pushback to the crazy racist ideas that they're putting forth. So hopefully this will kill his presidential aspirations, because I don't want to see that shit in office. Hey, but at least we know that Gavin Newsom's son is a big fan of Kirk and a baby incel. Thanks for that PSA, Gavin. Now, to focus a little bit on Arizona, the Arizona legislature, conservative lawmakers just pushed forth 3 bills attacking abortion access, despite the fact that Arizona voters made it very fucking clear that we support access to abortion. We voted on it in November. They apparently don't give a fuck. And of course, this really underscores the fact that these attacks on abortion access are not stopping, and we must focus, we must lock in, we must repeal these restrictions that are still on the books and be vigilant. The news out of Texas of the Attorney General Ken Paxton prosecuting several healthcare providers for providing illegal abortions is really disturbing. And Trump recently also just pardoned groups of people who were facing criminal charges for attacking abortion clinics. So this fight is not over. We need to stay tuned in and make sure that we continue to fight to make sure that everyone is able to access the abortion they need. So we have abortions on demand. I want to see an abortion drive-through. Just a thought. Arizona also just resumed lethal injections by executing Aaron Gunches on March 19th, 2025. This brings us to the ridiculous bill of the week at the Arizona legislature. Conservative lawmakers want to change out the way that we kill people at the hands of the state from being lethal injections to a firing squad because, lethal injections are too inhumane. But, my suggestion for that is, how about we maybe abolish the death penalty? Just a thought. Conservative lawmakers in the Arizona legislature also just advanced a bill that would reward cops for helping deport people, paying them a $2,500 bounty per arrest. I think that leads to a deportation, which is absolutely disgusting and certainly not what I want my taxpayer dollars going to. How about we, fund education, make rent cheaper, anything that would actually help people. In other immigration-related news, Trump's administration announced new plans to resume building the border wall in southern Arizona. Another great use of taxpayer dollars. Trump is also threatening to ramp up deportations of basically anyone he doesn't like. His administration is not just targeting criminals, they're targeting kids with cancer, college professors, small business owners, and mothers. I'm not sure how this does anything to make our community safer or bring prices down, but it's definitely concerning. The United States definitely has a history of targeting political opponents, but what we're seeing with the arrest, the illegal, not even arrest, the abduction of Columbia student Mahmoud Khalil is definitely jarring. It's much more out in the open. I don't know if everyone saw the video from his arrest, but it was absolutely horrifying. I really felt for his wife, who's pregnant, 8 months pregnant with his child, having to go through that scenario and not know what's going on with him. And that's just, what we're seeing on camera. This stuff is happening and has been happening in this country in some iteration, basically since its inception. And the targeting of political opponents and free speech and just activism in general and the risk that comes with that is something that I want to talk a little bit more about today. So I'm really excited to have my good friend and badass activist here in Arizona, Belen Sisa, on the pod to talk about her experiences as an immigration activist and outspoken leader for social justice in Arizona. And now we are here for my interview with Belen Sisa. She is a friend, an activist here in Arizona, a former Bernie staffer, and also a DACA recipient, and my first former boss in the political world. And I'm so excited to have her here today. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me, Abigail.
How are you doing?
I'm surviving. I think that's the most common sense answer right now for most people. I'm not doing great because of everything going on in the world, but I do think that we still have to find the little joys and things and to live life too and not let what's happening around us completely have control over our lives, because I think that's what they want, right?
Totally.
That's what the chaos is about.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's definitely important to let those moments of joy and love fuel our fighting back and our communities and our people. So
it's hard though.
It is really hard. It is something you have to practice every day.
Yeah.
So my first question is, I just wanted to hear, or I know, but if you wanted to tell our listeners a little bit about how you got started in politics and advocacy here in Arizona.
Well, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, I am a DACA recipient now, but when I got involved in the movement, I was actually completely undocumented. I had just graduated from high school in 2012, and I went to high school in Florence, Arizona, which is a very small, conservative, rural town in Arizona that's a little bit closer to the border.
We share that.
And, growing up there, I was scared to tell people that I was undocumented. I, was the varsity cheerleader or homecoming queen, the last person anyone, I think, in their mind with that stereotype would think, oh, she's an immigrant or she's undocumented. And I never felt like I could actually be myself. Like, I'm pretty sure that I thought no one like me existed and I was like an alien, like
Isolating, yeah.
and I was completely isolated until President Obama made his executive action that summer in 2012 to put in place with an executive action, deferred action for childhood arrivals, which helps young undocumented people who were brought to the U.S. when they were children. And it gives us a work permit and protects us from deportation. And that currently is actually probably headed to the Supreme Court. And sometimes when I say I'm undocumented, people are like, you're not though. But I'm like, actually, tomorrow that could be taken away. So it's not like I have a green card or I'm a citizen, but now we don't even know how much weight that carries.
Right, exactly.
So really, to answer the question simply, I just went through such a character development almost, I feel like, that it was out of survival that I got involved. It wasn't because, I was watching from the outside. It was like I was living it. And if I didn't fight for me, then who was going to fight for me?
Totally. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think as you mentioned with, who knows if the green cards and these other like legal protections that we have right now are going to be the case for very much longer. I think something that I think a lot of people are concerned about and thinking about are like, the Trump administration's targeting of anybody who doesn't agree with what they have to say. And the abduction of Mahmoud Khalil is definitely top of mind for me. I know that you recently spoke to the Phoenix New Times, I think, about that, what's going on with that. And so I just wanted to see what your kind of reaction is to that situation.
I mean, I think that what I was trying to get across in that article is that we are all Mahmoud Khalil. Whether we think we are or not, we've either were students in the past who may have been immigrants or maybe students who were moved by the climate movement or Occupy Wall Street. All of us always started in the activism world, and it was about speaking up about something that needed to change. So if we just start with the people who are what is considered the less desirables, then that's just how it starts. It's little by little. Then it'll be someone else. Then it'll be another person. And eventually we're all going to be a target because it doesn't just end at one group. It's about political prosecution and about you not being able to have free speech and say what you truly feel. On now they're starting to say that for immigration applications, they're also going to be screening people's social media. Since when has that ever been something that the government does? I mean, we talk so much about other countries and how we have more liberties than they do and political repression and everything. And now it's happening here. And people think that because we invest in the military, we're all going to be free. When in reality, I'm pretty sure that I've seen some pretty brutal dictatorships across the world that were not safe or free. And I am really scared that we're actually headed in that direction. And so when I spoke out in that article in the Phoenix New Times too, it was about saying, no, I'm not going to let you do this. You are not going to tell me what I can and can't say. And if you want me to shut up, then I'm going to give you the opposite.
Yeah, totally.
Because I don't want you to win and to make sure that we all live in darkness. Because when things happen in the darkness is when we really are in trouble. And the point of this is to make us all so afraid and paralyzed that
we silence ourselves.
Exactly.
Let them come for our loved ones.
Let them come for until it's, I guess, your son or daughter, I guess, if you don't care. But I think what I'm trying to do is like, wake up call, guys. Like, we got to do something now. We got to start thinking a little bit more strategically because
they're coming for all of us. We can't wait till it's knocking on your door because it's too fucking late when it's that point.
Exactly. And then who's going to fight for you?
Right.
Because it's all intertwined, right? Like your freedom is intertwined with my freedom always.
Yep. Totally. Thank you for that. Thank you for talking about that. was a great piece, and I definitely recommend that everyone go check that out on the Phoenix New Times. A little bit on that note, so what is something that you think that people who care, are concerned, want to fight back, what is something that you recommend folks do right now?
Well, I think that number one, you need to look within yourself and ask yourself, what do I have to offer to the movements that are existing right now? And say, maybe that might be art, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that might be you have really great communication skills. Maybe you are a really great organizer and you know how to mobilize people and get them to do what we need to do. Or sometimes you just can just volunteer once in a while and you can't dedicate all of your time. But I think the most important thing is to ask, what can I do? Because right now the forest is on fire. Mm-hmm. And it can seem like with one bucket of water, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah, totally.
You know, like what is...
Feels like a drop in the bucket. Yeah.
Exactly. What is that? What am I going to accomplish with this? And I think that we can't think that way. We have to think, let's focus. Let's see what we have to offer. What issue are you passionate about? Maybe that's immigration. Maybe that's climate change. Maybe that's a right to health care. Maybe that is so many things that are under the umbrella. And focus on one and trying to do your part instead of getting overwhelmed and thinking you have to do everything. And, who am I to talk, right? I do it all the time.
Right.
But if you're just starting, it can be a lot.
Totally. It's intimidating.
Exactly. I've been doing this now for over 10 years. And just now I'm starting to explore and get more into other issues because it's not just about the issue that impacts you, right? It's all intertwined. May Day's coming up, right? May Day is about workers. It's International Workers' Day, but immigrants make a part of that.
Totally.
Right? So how can we say our piece and become part of something bigger, almost like Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition? Because that's what scares the opposition. Their whole point is cause chaos, divide and conquer. And then we'll be able to do whatever it is that we want to do. But as soon as we say, hell no, I'm not scared of you. I'm going to do whatever I can within my community so that we organize ourselves and at least make ourselves heard. Then you can't say, oh, well, no one did anything. And, I just, am a Nazi and took over, Poland and no one did anything.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe cut that part. That wasn't too thought out, maybe. But
no, that's what we want.
But that's how things end up becoming what they do. It's small little things, like I said earlier, that no one ever cares to think about because the forest is on fire.
Yeah.
But we can change things, right? AOC said it. She said it's not over until we give up.
Right.
As soon as we give up, it's over.
Then there's, like you said, there's a role for everyone to play. And I'm sure, the fascists in charge, seeing the amount of people showing up in Arizona the past few days for Bernie and AOC has got to have them a little nervous. I mean, and just thinking about all of the organizing that was being done just at those rallies of, community organizations, recruiting people and getting people to get involved beyond just showing up for the rally. I think there's definitely a lot of hope in that. And that kind of ties into my next question was, what is giving you joy and hope right now?
Well, something that's been giving me a lot of hope actually is, I didn't mention this, but I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. And right now we have a really terrible president that is actually very similar to Trump in a lot of ways. And one of the things that he's doing is trying to cut benefits and pensions for elderly people who have worked their entire lives, every single day, probably working overtime sometimes, not spending time with their families, barely making ends meet, with an economy that's yo-yoed up and down constantly. And they're being repressed as they protest brutally, violently. And they're 70, 80-year-old people. Yeah. And they're saying please see me as a person. Please see that one day you're going to be old too. So like, you need to fight for me too. And I'm getting kind of teary eyed thinking about it. And like, because what the hell are we doing? Like, you know, people who've worked their entire lives, that could be me and you in 20, 50 years. You know what I mean?
It's so many of the people around us.
And it says a lot, I think, about our society and our governments and what we prioritize, and the fact that we can't even take care of our most vulnerable people who have given everything so that we could be here. We're treating that way. And yet they're still not backing down, and they're fearless and have courage. And it just kind of makes you self-reflect, like, well, what am I doing?
That's such a good point. I think I don't remember where I was listening to this, but like what we have right now is the world that we have right now is what we inherited from the people who struggled and fought before us.
Exactly.
And so what the world that we are going to leave is going to be the product of our struggle to leave a better, future for the next generation. So,
but a lot of people think of young people sometimes, right, as like the inspiration. And young people are incredibly inspiring. Like the energy that they have, the fearlessness of like, I don't care, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna protest, and I'm gonna say I'm here and you can't tell me I can't be. And that's beautiful. But at the same time, there's so much wisdom, and I think that sometimes people forget about our elders. And like, oh, you live in the past.
People have fought this. We have a lot to learn.
And it's like, what an entitled thing to think, right? That like we know better than people who did this before.
Like you said, we have so much to learn from the people who have our elders and the people who fought this before us. Is there anyone in particular that you would like to have dinner with, share a meal with, learn from, and who would that be? What would you eat with them?
So thinking back to like where I'm from, right? I think that for some reason, like I'm 31 now, so I've been like reflecting a lot on the fact that I came here when I was 6. And so I feel like a disconnect in some ways to like where I'm from and the movements too that happened in my home country in Argentina. And I keep getting a lot of parallels to the right-wing dictatorships of the 70s and 80s, where actually today, as we're recording, is the 49th anniversary of when the right-wing government took power in 1976. And someone in particular that always has stuck out to me is, they call them las madres de Plaza de Mayo, the mothers of the plaza. And they are really brave women who in the 70s and 80s came out against the dictatorship to expose the fact that their children and family members were disappeared by the government. They were tortured and then they never came back. And in a lot of instances, it was women who were pregnant and had babies. And so those children were also disappeared and in a lot of times adopted by their very oppressors. And one of the mothers, that's the co-founder, Nora Cortiñas, she passed away last year at 94. But she was one of the mothers that stood up against the right-wing dictatorship. And I saw a meme the other day that said, if you're ever afraid, just remember this image. And it's the Madres de Plaza de Mayo with their handkerchiefs, their white handkerchiefs. And there was a line of like police with horses in front of them. And I think now on how we're being repressed a lot. And I just wish, that she would have been able to find her son, or at least know what happened to him before she died. And to also learn from her, to say, you fought back when it felt impossible, when you literally could have been disappeared.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you still did it. Like, how?
Mother's love.
Like, what powered you through? Like, what strategies did you enact to fight back? Because I need that right now. And that's why I'm like, let's lean on our elders. Like, maybe we're in an unprecedented time, but maybe we can bring our modernness with their wisdom, and we can make something happen. And sometimes it's even just about being encouraged or getting like a pep talk, right, from someone who's done this.
There. Yeah.
And also, she was 94 and she was still protesting.
That's insane.
Like, what right do I have at 31 of saying I'm tired? Why? You know, crying about it. And, you know, it's also not good to not feel. But at the same time, like, we have a long road.
We do. We certainly do.
Ahead, and we need to like preserve some of that energy. So I think that what I would probably do is lean on her, and have some typical Argentinian food, un poco de asado, some empanadas, sándwiches de miga, all delicious. The pastries too.
It sounds quite lovely, and what a powerful sentiment that you just expressed. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for letting me share. It's a part that I don't talk a lot about. I think, like, I've been thinking a lot about it this past year, and I'm like, I need to tap into what's happening where I came from more. And maybe that will give me a little bit of like coming back to the root, right? Of like, you come from these people who were literally immigrants too, from Spain and Italy. And it's like in my veins of like being a fighter or not giving up. And I just hope that whoever is listening to this can kind of get a little bit of that too. That, like AOC said, it's not over until we give up and say that it's over. And if a 94-year-old mother who was getting persecuted by, you know, right-wing dictators in Latin America and Argentina can do it, then so can we.
So can we. We absolutely can. Yeah, I think it's really important that everyone right now, like, continues educating themselves about just, like, historical examples of resistance and finding power in that, and, you know, realizing that people have fought before, and there is, you know, there's a lot we can learn from them, and there's a bit of a blueprint, in fact.
There is.
So,
yeah.
On that, kind of switching gears a little bit, what is an issue that you think isn't getting enough attention right now?
Sorry.
It'll be okay.
Sorry, Mike. I think something that has recently caught my eye, actually, over the weekend is the fact that it has been leaked that, you know, the IRS is possibly going to start colluding and working with basically ICE and
that.
DHS.
Yeah.
Which should be incredibly alarming to everybody, not just immigrants, because, again, to the conversation that we were having earlier about Mahmoud Khalil and the Phoenix New Times story, is that it's just starting with immigrants. Once it starts with immigrants, then it's the blueprint for being able to say it's open season and you can do it to anybody else.
Yep.
And if Elon Musk has access to your social security number, I don't know what makes you think that they're not going to be monitoring
Yours too.
Yeah. And also, how are you going to know who's undocumented and who's not paying taxes?
Yeah. That's not
are you just going to see who's Latino?
Right.
Like,
that's not how that works.
Like, we do have
pay taxes.
Yeah, there are some people who use ITIN numbers, which could be somewhere where they start. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be Sam Jones.
Right. It's another racial profiling
who you go after. Exactly. And eventually, it's going to be whoever dissents. We will collect your data and we will use it. And first, it started with private companies, right? Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, but I refuse to call it X.
Yeah, we're not calling it that. It's Twitter.
Little beep, beep, little birdie. But it can happen to anyone at this point. And if we even play with the idea
that's allowed for anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. That's already scary enough.
Yeah, I saw that this weekend as well. Super concerning for sure. I'm like, I don't even know.
Well, and also, like, not even to begin to add that it's going to discourage people from wanting to pay their taxes.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say, wow, you know, I thought I was doing the right thing, and now all of a sudden I'm going to be, you know, hunted down for this. And it also gives you a great insight into how big of a hypocrite Trump is.
Totally.
Because not one, you're calling us criminals when you're a convicted felon, excuse me, sir.
Right.
And number two, let me see how much you pay in taxes.
Right. Let's see the receipts.
Let's see your receipts. Because it's almost as if the hate is like everything is a mirror, right? And it's like everything that he can't like actually uphold like to the moral standard of, he imposes it on other people and then criminalizes them for it.
Yep.
Like the USCIS website that said, "Make America safe again." Since when is safety equated with immigration?
Right.
That is a construct. That is not real. But it's all in a narrative. And that's another thing I'm mad at the media about, because this is partly their fault.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, they need a something to distract from the fact that they're not doing that they're actively hurting us and not doing anything to better our lives. So they need to make it seem like they're doing something. So what are they doing? They're attacking immigrants, attacking their political foes, and I don't like that. You don't use that. Not to do that, but I just did that.
It's okay. I mean, it's gonna be a tough road.
Yeah.
But I think that people need to pay more attention to little things like that, because the whole thing is that they make it about immigrants so that you don't pay attention to the little details about how this is soon and on its way to becoming like a fascist dictatorship.
Yeah.
Which
They're rolling it out on immigrants, but it's
yeah,
coming for all of us.
Exactly.
Right. Which, you know, I wish that people didn't need to have to realize that it's coming for all of us to get more involved, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what Bernie and AOC are trying to do, right? Is starting to address the class question, because for some reason it seems like it's too complicated. Well, the GOP kind of got it right? Because they won.
Right.
But on the other side, we lost because we thought we were above people who were the average everyday people that we needed to meet where they were.
Yeah. People care about feeding their families.
Exactly. But for some reason, the other side was able to make a villain out of us, saying that for some reason we're at fault for everything. When in reality, it's the people, the puppeteers behind the scenes that are trying to make sure that your children are educated. They're the ones who are making sure that they get the tax cuts and you front the bill. They're the ones who want to get rid of health care so that it's actually accessible to some people, even though we have a long way to go. And then building a wall and making it seem like that's what we need and that makes us safe.
Right.
When no one is safe when they're homeless or living in poverty.
Right.
And that's not really freedom.
Yep. It's totally like all of these programs that we have, like these are a result of the hard work and taxes that have been paid by our families, by our grandparents, by our parents, like, and they're stealing that to enrich private industries, like, you know, the private prison industry is benefiting like astronomically from this mass deportation, incarceration bullshit that is happening.
And back to the elders who are getting their pensions cut. Like I said the other day, I was like, nothing is free. Nothing is ever free because we pay for it with our taxes.
Right.
It's about what they decide to do with the money, but nothing is ever free if you worked for it.
Exactly. So on a lighter note, in terms of just kind of taking care of yourself and tuning out a little bit when is needed, what are you reading these days? Anything you're listening to, music, watching?
So I love The White Lotus.
I just caught up to the last episode last night.
I love it so much. I just love the vibe, and it's always unexpected. Like you don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And I maybe I'm a person because I'm a homebody that just watches so much stuff that I'm like, I know what's gonna happen. And then this show, I don't actually. And it's just so beautiful, like the way that it's shot and like the way that they incorporate like the local cultures within, and how it's always not something that you'd expect. So that's a lot of fun to watch. I also really like this game called June's Journey.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever played it, but it's based in the 1920s and it follows a detective named June.
Is it like a board game or?
It's a game on your iPad or on your phone.
Gotcha.
And it's basically a hidden object game, but it's like a mystery game. So there's a story behind it.
I like the narrative behind my games.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so beautiful. Like, and since it's all in the 1920s, it has like 1920s music and like, let's go to the speakeasy and find the candlestick and
nice, like Clue, but
yes.
Yeah.
So you find things, but there's a story behind it.
Okay.
So that's a lot of fun. And honestly, I'm just into like doing crafts and stuff. I feel like such a grandma sometimes.
No, I mean, grandmas.
Well, you like baking.
Awesome. Yeah, I love baking. So yeah, grandma activities for the win.
I'm like a grandma light in a young person's body.
I'm with you there. Well, thank you so much for coming on the pod today and talking with me and sharing your perspectives. Hopefully, I don't know where I wanted to go with that.
It is an honor, Abigail.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great to see you and have you on. Is there anything that you would like to plug for listeners, where they can find you, any projects that you want to plug for people to support?
Yeah. Well, you can follow me on social media at Belen Sisa, my name. And then I had started a podcast a year ago.
I remember this. Oh my goodness.
And I think I'm going to try to bring it back.
Yeah, totally.
So it's called Pretty Serious. And the reason why I called it Pretty Serious is because I feel like in the just world, you cannot have dualities, right? Like you can't be girly pop and like love Real Housewives and also think that, everyone deserves to have health care and know what you're talking about when it comes to policy or immigration. And so it's a little bit of both, right? It takes a look at like pop culture, but then also talks about more serious stuff, like when they were talking about reality stars unionizing, for example. Like we think that that's not politics, but politics is actually all around us.
Yep. Everything is political.
Everything is political. So maybe if I bring it back, just stay tuned.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Abigail, for having me. I missed you.
You too. Wow, that was an amazing interview with Belen. So grateful that she took the time to come on here and talk with us about her experiences and her perspective on the insanity that is going on around us. Now for a bit of hope as a treat, some things that are giving me hope are just seeing the outrage, the collective outrage from Arizonans and just people around the country who are showing up at town halls and going to protests and making their voices heard. Here in Arizona, Senators Gallego and Kelly just held a town hall, and it was really great to see Arizonans really calling them out and demanding that they do better, and making it clear that we deserve better and we're not going to accept less than that. We need a real opposition to what is going on as Trump is destroying our country actively. It's also nice to see, we do have some conservative judges fighting back in the courts, but it is important to, of course, note that this is not, of course, actively stop the harm that is being caused to our most vulnerable communities. So keep showing up to events, keep building community, keep going to protests, talk to people, learn about, figure out what your community needs, figure out how the people around you can work to address those needs, because now more than ever, and that's going to keep getting more true, we need to be able to rely on each other. We need to be able to take care of each other, and put those systems into place ourselves. And the weather is quickly getting hot, but right now it's still nice. So get outside,
maybe go camping, go for a hike, reach out to a friend that you haven't seen in a while, and really build that community, build those relationships, and unplug for a little bit. There's so much going on, and it will be there when you get back from enjoying a few hours outdoors. I know I mentioned earlier that I went to a music festival a few weeks ago, and that is honestly a moment that I'm just continuing to return to in my headspace. Seeing LCD Sound System was a really incredible experience. That a few of their songs really mean a lot to me. So find that moment of peace and joy that you can, and hold on to it, revisit it, and let it fuel you as we continue to navigate this environment. So keep going to these protests, keep showing up at these events, join an organization, talk with your fellow community members and figure out what the needs are of your community and what you can do to organize and work together to meet those needs. As, more and more we cannot rely on government or our elected officials to do that for us. Thank you so much for tuning in to this third episode of Nothing Left Unsaid. To catch up on our previous episodes, you can find us on Spotify. You can catch the video episodes on our YouTube. And of course, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for all of the latest.